All right, we are live. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We are live. We are live. Good afternoon. My name is Sheila Bruno, founder of Wife After Prison. I am here with my guests, Miss Rowe and Miss Rowe Epps and Mr. Rodney. And so we're
Harris.
here. Mr. Rodney Harris. Mr. Rodney Harris. So we're going to be having a conversation tonight about reentry and relationships. So as you come on, let us know where you're logging in from. Also, share this information, share this live is going to be no doubt very informative, informative. So as you log in, ask that you share it out. I know that there's so many people who have loved ones who are incarcerated, or you work with that population, or you have a family member. And although it's reentry and relationship, this encompasses not just intimate relationships, spouses. This is relationships, period. Whether it's with the mother, the son, the daughter, the whatever. So we're going to be talking about something that does not discriminate. And we're going to be talking about post-incarceration syndrome. I'm known for giving voice to the psychological impact of incarceration 2017, 2018. When I needed this information, I could not find it. I needed support. So I am just honored today to have my guests. Normally, last year when we had the lives, it was mainly me talking with system impacted citizens. And so 2004, I wanted to change it up. I wanted to do something different because the voices of the family members matter. So I wanted to bring some family members into the conversation so that you can hear their stories, right? Not just the system impacted citizens, because when they come back in the household, when they come back home, it's like the whole family has to adjust. So again, welcome. I'm asked that you share this live out. Again, when you are logging in, just let us know that where you're logging in from. Again, my name is Sheila Bruno, founder of Wife After Prison, author of Wife After Prison, Caught in the Aftermath. Caught in the Aftermath. So again, we're going to be talking about post-incarceration syndrome. Now, the purpose of these lives is to educate. Educate. You have to be aware of this. When I gained knowledge of this, I looked all over for information about post-incarceration syndrome, not just post-incarceration syndrome, but I wanted to understand what had happened to my amazing husband. What happened? What happened to the man who used to come in every evening so hot, happy and jolly? And, we just run around the house like we were kids and kissing me. And I'm standing in the window waiting on him to come home. Couldn't wait to see him hit that corner. What happened to my amazing husband? Yeah. And so I went to digging and digging and digging and digging and digging. And this is when God just led me to post-incarceration syndrome. And when I showed that information to Kevin, he confirmed, yeah, this is it. This is it, right? And so Kevin and I decided we needed to share our story. And when we did, that's when we got the Me Too's. Me too, yeah, me too. And so again, this is not a platform where we're bashing anybody. Ain't nobody bashing nobody. I don't care if you met while you were incarcerated, married while you was incarcerated. Don't care about none of that. All we care about is getting this information out and getting the necessary help, not only for the system impacted citizens, but the family members as well. Thank you for joining us, Miss Missy. And so
Hello,
again,
everybody.
yeah.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And so this is the deal, guys. So I asked Ro and Missy to join me because I've known Missy for a couple of years. And recently, maybe a year or so about Ro. And these are two ladies whose husbands were incarcerated. Right? So I wanted them to come on and share their story, share their truth, right? So y'all can understand it just ain't Sheila. Sheila just ain't made this up, right? And so this is why I asked them to come along and share their stories. And I've given this information, this invitation to others. And for whatever reason, and I can't knock that, I have to respect that some people are just not willing to come forth and share their story. I'm good with that. You don't want to put your face out there, give me your story. I'll put your story out there, right? Because this is some information that needs to be had. Our loved ones are coming home from prison. And I'm just going to keep it real. Some of them are messed up. Some of them are absolutely messed up. Some of them are in denial. Some of them know that they are because of the stigma surrounding anything pertaining to mental health. Then they deny it. And so they suffer in silence. And when we're in the household with them, guess what? We suffering too.
That's right.
We're suffering too. So we can get to this conversation. I met Rodney a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn. I did a post and he commented on the post. And I'm always looking for brothers and sisters who are willing to come on and talk about this and educate us. And so
I'm ready.
His comments were so real. I said, okay, can I book you? Can I put you on the sketch? Yeah. Because you're telling the truth. Absolutely. And this is what this is what we need. Family members need to understand. And not only family members need to understand, our brothers and sisters coming home, y'all need to understand our pain. Because we have some pain of imprisonment. Okay, so we're going to get this party started. We're going to go around the room. We're going to start with Ro, then we're going to start with Missy. We're going to start with Rodney. You guys introduce yourself. Whatever information you want to provide, you can do so at this time.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Roia Epps Ward, often referred to as Ro, so please feel free to call me Ro. I am a resident now of North Carolina. I work at the North Carolina Supreme Court. Prior to that, and for Associate Justice Allison Riggs. So anybody listening, please vote for my boss so I can keep a job. But she does justice too. I'm a former public defender, and my path to this conversation is the reason why I even became an attorney. My husband, first boyfriend, was wrongly convicted for 26 years for a crime he didn't commit. And after I paid appellate attorney number 4, I said I can go to law school and just work to get him out myself, So my husband and I, we come from very humble beginnings. We did bond out of tragedy. We had both abusive upbringings and environments. So we had a lot of history prior to his incarceration. The circumstances with my husband's conviction, he was 18 years old. At the end of the 26 years, my husband was 44, about to turn 45. So literally, my husband has spent more time in prison than he has in society, in the world. So something that I've been dealing with over the past 4 years, because we've been married now a little over 3 years. He's been out since February 2020 when he was exonerated. Just seeing the impact of wrongful conviction. It is something that I deal with daily. He deals with daily. And in trying to research and get the answers further to try to explain, because I was a social worker for 20 years before I was a lawyer. And I found Sheila Bruno. And when I tell you, it's like finding her was almost like giving me a ticket to a movie theater. Because without a ticket, you can't get access to the theater. When she was able to put a name on what I was experiencing with pics, even now I get chills now just talking about it. Just the education and the wealth of knowledge that she has just brought me over the past year, I'm forever indebted and grateful, to the point now I'm trying to conjure up funding for research, because PICS, or post-traumatic prison disorders, are what is referred to from the National Institute of Mental Health in DC. It is under research. It's not a DSM-4 diagnosis. They want to say it's like PTSD. Yeah, it is, but there's some unique characteristics and features to people that have been confined to carceral settings. And that's where the research is going to be beneficial. That's where the treatment can begin. And my husband has a new therapist now who was also incarcerated. So I'm hoping, I know as Ms. Bruno just disclosed about some people's marriages have ended in divorce. I have a lot invested in my marriage. Like I stated, I've known my husband since I was 11 years old. I went to law school. I'm not going to give him that credit, but I'm going to say God in his situation. I use that to channel that. As I heard Ms. Bruno say last month, sometimes God allows you to feel it if he called you to heal it. So I look forward to this conversation today. I'm all ears and I'm honored to be here.
Thank you so much, lady. Thank you so much. Miss Missy.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. I'm Missy Edwards. Gosh, I'd love to say where I'm from, but I honestly don't know. Let me see. I was born in San Diego. I was raised in Chicago and New York. And now my heart bleeds Texan. I love Texas. I live in Texas, and Texas is home for me. I was living 18 months in Ohio about a year and a half ago with my then husband, and who was incarcerated for 29 years. I met my husband when I was 17 years old, and he had the bright idea to go to Ohio with a group of friends to sell drugs. He was picked up by some investigators who were uh, investigating a murder. Unbeknownst to him, he was sitting in the car eating chicken, and they asked him his name. He gave a wrong name, and there began the nightmare of his wrongful conviction. He was incarcerated with three other men from New York, and at 18 years old, he got out at 48. So he was released in 2020, October of 2020. He was not exonerated. He was released on parole. Two men still remain in prison on the wrongful conviction of that murder. That's you just wanted us to make our own introduction. I work for Globe Life, so I sell supplemental insurance. That's what I do for a living, and that's pretty much my introduction.
So let me ask you this, and I didn't ask Ro this either. So you married after he got out or while he was on the inside?
That's a great question. So we were set to get married in 2020. I got back in touch with my ex-husband after 19 years of not being in touch with him. We were engaged in 1999, 2000. And then after 2 years, I just got cold feet, didn't talk to him we didn't talk to each other for like 19 years. I got back in touch with him in 2020, and he got paroled. So I was set to go to the prison and marry him, and then COVID hit. So no one could go to the prison. And then he was paroled about 10 months later, and we got married 8 days after he was released.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Ro?
We got married after he got out. My husband had asked me to marry him in prison for years, and I had been married before. So this is my second marriage. I was like, when you get married, you take pictures, it's memorable. I don't want to see no bars. I don't want to see no paintings behind us in that jumpsuit. I said, let's have a wedding like the one we deserve, like normal people. Because we always knew he was wrongly convicted. That was never a doubt in my mind. It was just, how do we get to justice? Yeah. So we married after 10 months out. We had significant premarital counseling for about 6-7 months, but nobody was treating us for pics. So here we are.
So a total of how many years was he incarcerated?
26 years.
My God.
Just like Missy's husband at the age of 18. Yeah.
26, wrongfully convicted.
Yes, and my husband was exonerated. He is an exoneree.
Okay.
And I didn't say we're from Detroit.
Okay.
So he's on the National Registry of Exonerations.
Okay, very good, very good. Mr. Rodney, let me unmute you.
Not yet. Okay, here we go. My name is Rodney Harris. I've been incarcerated over 30-something years. It was not one consecutive, but it was over a period of 5 felony convictions. I'm 61 years old. I've been one of those kids that came through the system through detention, being foster home, starting off in county jails, and then graduating to prison. My story is basically I'm a part of a organization which is trying to change lives now. I've been involved with mental health. I've been involved with the Peacemakers here in Buffalo, New York, which we make sure that the kids get home after school. I'm doing a lot of things which are giving back to our community. I'm also a part of a organization which is now on LinkedIn, which was founded by Kenneth Gilmore Jr. And it's the home of crime prevention workshop skills, and it deals with gun prevention and a few other different aspects of changing one's perspective.
So how long have you been home?
I've been home about maybe 3 years.
3 years. So how was the transition?
The transition? My transition started in prison.
Okay.
Because I know I had to get rid of a lot of things that were inside of me that were given to me by my mom. A lot of the things that she went through as a mother, of course, she transferred to me. And it wasn't until I had to live life that I had to recognize that, a lot of hatred that I had for my father had to be melded, because they were two individuals that I became the product of, and I had to accept, because I had been through my bull crap too, at 22. So I had to understand that they were different, instead of, wanting to lash out on him. There was a lot of things that I had to do prior to getting out of prison in order to be ready.
So let me ask you this. So you went through what I'm hearing you say is that you went through some pre-incarceration trauma.
Right. Yeah. I was physically abused by my sister and my mother. So there was a lot of things I had to get rid of in order for me to be ready to do a lot of things out here. I'm also a paralegal. Okay. I worked in the law library as a legal researcher. I've taught classes. So I'm really into that. I've also represented people here in the Buffalo with CPS. I've exposed a lot of things, and we just got an opportunity to hook up with Genius is Common, Mr. Bruce George. So we're doing things to make a difference.
Very good.
But I wanted to give some input on what you as women have gone through and why.
We got something to say. Trust and believe we got something to say.
I don't think we got enough time, Rodney.
No, we gonna have to do this.
We got some time. I'm listening.
I met a guy on LinkedIn, and I'm gonna have to have him on. He hit me up and he said, Miss Bruno, he said, I did 28 years. He said, and I believe that I'm successful in every area of my life, with the exception of relationships. And so he said, I want to be on your show so women can talk to me and tell me what are some of the things that I, may be doing right, and again, are wrong, right? But again, this is not about bashing men. It's really about everybody being accountable.
Right.
Everybody being accountable, right? And if you've been to prison, and depending on what prison you were in, man, that's a level of impact. There's a level.
It's a whole different. It's a whole different form of socialization. When you're
Absolutely.
incarcerated, you don't have that ability to know how to socialize, because any socializing information gotten from there, it's it's bad.
Okay. So let's do this. We going to missing, we going to rope. I want
Okay.
to know what y'all saw. What did you see to say this something ain't right?
Well, um, gosh, that's such a loaded question. What did I see? Initially, I saw someone that was struggling with being connected, um, struggling with dealing with my feelings, struggling with dealing with all the things that I was promised, because they're incarcerated and they have this grandiose fantasy running around in their head, I guess. I've never been, incarcerated, but I'm assuming they have an idea of what kind of man they want to be. They watch TV and, at some point they were out here in the world, even as a teenager, they had to have had some sort of relationships with girls, and they just have this fantasy of what kind of man they're going to be, and they promise you the sun, the moon, and the stars. My husband said, "Oh, I'm gonna make everybody so jealous of you when I get home." And based off of the teenage relationship we had prior to incarceration, right? What I know of him loving me, that well, he's capable of caring about my feelings and love and cuddling and all that stuff. So as a grown man, this is gonna be great, And they fill our heads with that stuff, and we buy into it because that's what they're promising. We have no reason to believe otherwise. Then
Yeah.
they get out and they're totally disconnected. So I experienced him wanting to. One of the very first arguments that we had was Facebook, social media. He, after 29 years of being incarcerated, and we had just gotten married, he posts a picture of his niece on Facebook that he barely knows how beautiful she is, and my beautiful. Now, one picture of me, and I'm the one did the social media war for him all the way back 1999, 2000. He had people contacting him from all over the world because I had hand built a website using HTML. Y'all remember that? To build him a website about his wrongful conviction. I had watched a movie called Hurricane Carter, and I wrote Hurricane Carter and had Hurricane Carter contact him in prison. I mean, I was an advocate. So for you to get out of prison and not one, and to this day, we not social media friends. So that was the first beef, that he was not publicly loving me or publicly acknowledging me.
Okay, put a comma right there. Hold on right there.
Okay.
Hold on. Because I want the ladies who are listening to understand, and Rodney too. And Missy, I know you know this. We didn't have this conversation. Yes, on the inside, they have great intentions. And like I say, they don't know what they don't know until they come out their gate.
Right.
They don't know. They thinking the bridge that was down the street when he was a little boy was still there. That bridge ain't there no more. And so I do believe that a lot of them have a good intention. They have intention. But when they get out here to this post-incarceration stuff, they trying to figure this out. But we as women, we hold on to what you told me you was going to do. Right?
Right.
So to somewhat a little bit to their defense, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they want. They don't know what they going. One lady told me that he told her to quit her job. Don't go to school. He had perfected how to do tattoos on the inside. And when he get out, he was going to be the tattoo artist. I said, if you don't go register in school tomorrow. So, yeah, we coming back, Missy. What
All
about
right.
you?
I would just want to piggyback off what Missy said. Definitely trying to figure out where they belong, and just something you shared, Missy. One thing that I knew from my experience as a social worker with PTSD, you are stuck at the age of the traumatic event. So my husband was 18 when he went in prison, but in the spirit of transparency, like most of the clients that I represented, even as a public defender, they have learning disabilities. So my husband was 18 years old in age, but from a clinical perspective, he was really about 13 or 14. So you put a
And
13. Go ahead,
that's
Rodney.
exactly what I was saying about socialization.
Yeah.
When you come into that system as a child, okay, that is where you are in an
Exactly.
environment that doesn't foster any kind of growth.
Yes. And for these reasons, Rodney, this is the reason why I have been extremely patient with my husband. Missy, what I found out soon early on, my husband couldn't handle social media. The biggest thing is, let's just be real. In prison, you're looking at porn, you're looking at pictures. So if I look at your feed and all I see is a bunch of big booty girls, I'm like, and this is what I fought to get you out for. I'm a woman of God. My image is Jesus and justice. You get butts and all this other. I was like, what is this feeding? But I would hear a little voice. He's still in prison. Literally, he's still in prison. And then just learning how he responded to things. Like if we would be out somewhere, he would literally ask if he could go to the bathroom. He's looking around, but he wants to go out and be social. But then when we go out to be social, we got to go through this the whole time. And then he's on edge and he's getting frustrated because whatever's going on inside of him, he doesn't know how to channel. Hey, I'm nervous. I don't want to be here. He's yelling at me. I was like, so what do you want to eat? I don't know. You pick it. And I'm being nice. I'm not going to cuss because we live. He's literally cussing at me in a restaurant.
Yeah.
I'm not yelling. Why are you yelling? I ain't angry. Oh, you know, I hate to see what anger looked like. Yeah. It was just like always snapping because I can't catch up because this technology has evolved so much. Right. And I'm trying to process all this stuff that's coming in. I get these learning disabilities. I've been in a setting at 13, 14 years old mentally with hardened criminals because he was convicted of murder, a double murder. So you putting them in there with lifers, maximum security. These people really did what they're there for. He's innocent and he's a little boy. And to grow up in that, the majority of your life, this is all he knows. And then when you earlier we were talking about accountability, oh, if I'm asking, well, I thought you said you were going with your cousin and y'all be gone for a couple of hours. You come back 10, 11 hours later. I'm not exaggerating. I'm thinking like, God, did something happen to him? I don't have to check in with you. You're not the PO. You ain't the warden. I was like, what? I'm not trying to be. Where's this coming? Bruh, are you alive? How about that? Yeah. And then the other added little chip with my husband, with a lot of exonerees that I see, because I've sat in on support groups. I helped start a support group for the exonerees in Detroit, the organization of exonerees, and they're doing very well. But I would hear all these guys tell the same stories about their girlfriends, their women. I said, man, I ain't the only one. They all got the same issues. I was just like, but this is not normal. You just want us to deal with it? Mm-hmm. Because then the other thing is that was the hardest part for me is a lot of these guys are wrongly convicted. They feel like I deserve everything I got coming to me. If I want to stay out and do this, if I want to buy this, if I want to go here, if I want to do this, I deserve it. I'm entitled to it. And I'm just like, no, you deserve to be safe and use sense. Yeah. And one thing about exonerees, they're extremely targeted. Family, friends, strangers, even lawyers, counselors. I'm going through a process now where I have to grieve an attorney because of, financial exploitation. It's like, I got to do all this protection for you because you're my husband, because I'm not going to let anybody just do anything to you. And like I said, I have a lot invested in my marriage. I just didn't show up one day. I've been doing this for years, advocating behind the scenes, advocating, trying to fight, trying to learn. How can you just convict somebody if there's no evidence, if you just testimony from 2 jailhouse informants? So I taught myself Brady versus Maryland. I taught myself about prosecutorial misconduct. I was a social worker. I wasn't trying to learn this. And then when you get out of prison, all I get is abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse. If I feel like I've been in this marriage by myself, and then you talk to me like this, and now I got to go fight against these lawyers and these counselors and other people that are taking advantage of you, and this family that's taking advantage of you. Where was all these people at when I was paying and fighting to get you out? But it's like they have this sense of belonging that they miss with this family, and their family knows it. People know it, and they take advantage of it. So for me, life has just been like, when you say, how did I know? I can't point to one thing, Sheila, because as soon as one thing happens, here comes something else. Here comes something else. It's like a snowball coming down a hill, and the ball getting bigger and bigger, and I either got to dodge it or try to catch it or try to. But it's just like I never get over the last thing, because here comes something else coming down. It's almost like being married to a loose, wild, running toddler. You know, if you don't watch a toddler, they get into this, they're running the street, they pick up the garbage, they go this, they touch the stove. It's like, hey, wait, stop, wait. Stop.
Yeah. So well, let me say this to you guys, and let me say it to family members, system impacted citizens, because you said a lot. You hit on every symptom that he has. You hit on the psychological distress. You hit on social reintegration. You hit on cognitive impairment. You hit on behavior patterns. All of those. And this is what I want to family members and whatever. I want us to be so educated. When you see these symptoms, you can call it out. When you're talking to a behavior health therapy or whatever, you can say, okay, yeah, he's having some cognitive impairment. His decision making is off. His problem solving is off. When that happens, that's cognitive impairment. And why does that happen? That happens because for decades, he hasn't had to make a decision. Every decision has been made for him, right? So this is a symptom. This is a problem. This is what we're fighting for. But we also need our brothers and sisters, when you come home and we point these things out, we're not pointing at you saying, nah. No, we're pointing at you and say, hey, baby, this is as a result of being locked down. Now, what we going to do? How we going to weave ourselves out of here? It ain't a po-po me. What are we going to do? Now, this is the deal, right? Because some people had to walk away to save themselves, me being one of them.
Me being two.
I had to walk away to save myself the first time.
I'm trying. Look, I said I'm trying, because I truly believe it's a ministry, but I don't believe that God calls anybody to be abused.
Right.
Right. And so the thing is, I was down for Kevin, whatever. Kevin went to therapy. Everything was Gucci. Everything was good. And Kevin thought he was good. And he stopped going to therapy. And when he stopped going to therapy, here this monster come again, more aggressive. And that time I said, okay, I got to choose me. Right. And my thing is this, man, I'm not saying anybody divorce your man or whatever, but if it gets to the point where there is so much psychological abuse and it can get that bad, then you got to make a choice, especially if they're not willing to get the necessary help that they need. Brother Rodney, let me ask you this, coming out this back gate. I didn't even ask you, are you married?
Yes, but no.
Oh, you are? No,
I'm yes and no.
Bro, I had so much hope for you. Come on.
Okay.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Can you relate to anything Ro has said, Missy has said, as it relates to behaviors? Huh?
He's shaking his head. He's shaking his head. He don't want to say it out loud.
Everything.
You got everything?
Everything.
Okay, and why
I said everything.
Okay.
Everything.
Everything. And as a result of what? Why do you think you behave the way that you behave? What's the reason?
Well, I mean, to quote exactly what Ro was saying, it is that attitude where, I'm not listening to you because of, this ideology of a parole officer or a warden. You got freedom now, and you didn't have that. And now it's yours to do whatever it is that you want to do. And if you ain't really healthy, you ain't gonna make no kind of right decisions. So all the things that you just talked about are so true. But it's a syndrome. It's a trauma. It's everything, because you have no idea the things that go on in there.
Yeah.
And as a child going through a young man, believe me, it is so bad in there.
So so what are you doing? Are you getting any type of support, any treatment, or anything like that?
Yeah, but people talk to me, not with me. And I'm not about having people talk, you got to listen to me. If you're not going to listen to me, I'm not going to waste my time. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
I know what I need and I say what I need. And if you can't do that, then keep it moving.
Can you share with us what it is you need?
Um, well, going through the legal system, there's a lot of things that happened to me as a child that, legally, I learned the law very well. And as I said to you earlier, I've been challenging the law on many different levels. Um, I really need that person who has time and is healthy themselves. That's the first thing I need. I need a healthy person to be able to sit down and talk. I find it hard to talk to one person because it just doesn't stimulate me. I need five people because I've learned so much about myself. Now it's about trying to learn about people. And
So are these mental health professionals you're talking to? Psychiatrists, therapists, counselors?
yes, but it's
Yeah.
also regular people too. It's also family members. It's also friends. It's also mental health. It's every. I talk to everybody.
You talk to everybody. So how you think you're doing? So if you had to rate yourself from the time you walked out that back gate, now, how would you rate yourself as far as how are you adjusting? How are you reintegrating?
I don't ever want to go back to jail, prison, or anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing or no one that can convince me that anything that jeopardizes my freedom is okay.
Okay. So had you ever heard of post incarceration syndrome?
Yeah, I didn't hear of that term, but when I came out, I knew I was suffering from a lot of things. I used to wake up with the dreams. I still do, but a lot often I shake in my sleep. There's a lot of things that's going on, um, but I'm dealing with it.
So
And
so
anything that I was talking to somebody the other day. Go ahead.
so I want to ask you. So on the inside, did they
Hello.
have any programs that mentally prepared you for coming out? Telling you about some
Nah.
of the challenges that you may have be faced with when you come out?
Well, I mean, um,
We ain't talking
there's a
about
mental
jobs.
health. There's
Okay.
no. I'm talking about mental health.
Okay.
There's mental health, but you got to go for it. They're not gonna. It's not anything. You have to want it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So
You have to
so
seek it
so
out.
okay. So Missy, you talked about this. So he was different than the person that was in the visitation room and different than the person that was on the phone. Different.
Um, he was very different, but there were times on the phone where the person that came home, I saw the arguing on the phone, the gaslighting, the blaming, the shift, blame shifting. That was evident. That
Yeah.
started coming out, and we did a lot of arguing. And I just said, well, this is the stress from him being behind bars on both ends. And I just figured everything's going to be okay when he gets out, because that's all we need is for him to get out. We're going to pick up where we left off. Everything is going to be good. Promises made are going to be promises kept. We're going to get married and everything's going to be all right.
Yeah. And so is he in counseling right now?
He is not.
Have you seen a change for the better? Is he growing? Is he changing? Is he working on himself?
So just a little background. We were married in October of 2020. We were divorced in October of last year. And then we started dating December 8th. So we're dating. I live in one state, he lives in another, and we're dating. Do I see a change in him? I do. Um, is the change enough for me to sustain a relationship with him? I don't know. I don't think so, because I went to therapy for almost 2 years. And it's funny that the person that comes out that's been incarcerated and has the issues and things, and not to say I didn't have any issues, okay, because we all come with our own baggage and our own issues and our own demons. I probably myself should have been in counseling years ago, just from childhood trauma, right? And he comes out of prison with all his childhood trauma and prison trauma, and there's two people that were severely traumatized and damaged got together and trauma bonded, right? So I'm not just pointing the finger at him. But what I will say is that, and he says this all the time, everyone does time differently. There were some of his co-defendants who have never been in solitary confinement or didn't spend long periods in solitary confinement. You have men in there who are raped or who have raped or who have been beaten. He told me there was a riot that broke out when he first got to prison. So he wasn't even fed for like 3 days. He was in a cell with a bunch of men and they weren't even fed for 3 days. Okay. There was a prison riot and he was just a young kid at that time. So he was in solitary confinement for a long time,
Yeah.
in and out. So here's what we talk about: pics, and we talk about narcissism, and we talk about uh, um, growth when your growth is stunted, right? Arrested development, and we throw out these terms, and we know what they're dealing with, but what we don't know is how that's going to affect us. Well, if he has post-incarceration syndrome, why is my hair falling out? If he has stunted and arrested development, why can't I sleep? And so all of his stuff started severely affecting me. Things I know I didn't have. My hair wasn't falling out before he came home. I slept like a baby before he came home. So his stuff started rubbing off on me. And
Yeah.
here's the one thing nobody talks about. 2 words: brain damage. And that's irreversible. So you can go to all the therapy, all the therapists, all the psychiatrists, all the medications you want. Brain damage is irreversible. So does that mean that everyone who was incarcerated who has brain damage shouldn't be married or shouldn't be in relationships? No. What it does mean is that we're never going to have a normal relationship. But what I'm not going to tolerate is an abusive one. And that's where the therapy and the psychiatry help him deal with, so he can recognize when he's being abusive. So he can, because I get talked to like I'm a dude on the yard. And it's just normal conversation. What the F you mean? And that's just regular conversation for him. But for me, it's mental abuse.
Yeah.
For me, it's verbal abuse. For me, it's emotional abuse.
It is.
Then I get started with the physical, because now I got to lay hands on him. And you lay hands on somebody that did 29 years in prison, they're going to lay hands on you back. And there we go. We down the rabbit hole.
A minute, you triggering me over here.
Right. Me too.
Don't trigger me. You triggered me. Let me tell you something. It's a trigger. Rodney, hear what we go through. We
I hear it.
Nobody.
And then
this is the thing. And Missy said it. Yeah, when Kevin come out, I'm healthy. I'm home. I'm traveling. I'm doing me or whatever. And so the trauma that started to come up and out of him, it attached itself to me. That's why I was consuming them sleeping pills like they was M&Ms, because that was the only time I wasn't in pain. Do you hear me? Do you hear me, Rodney?
Yes, I do.
Can you take this to the fellas?
I sure will.
Let me tell you something. We love and we support. But when it begins to tear us down, it does. And we're only trying to help. We're out here. We're in the books. We're researching. We're knocking on the doors with the therapists and the psychiatrists trying to get to answers so that we can help you guys. And it's not to bash, it's not to belittle whatever. We're just trying to help because we know what prison has done to you. And to the lady, and if anybody have any questions, you can put your questions and we'll answer it. To the lady that says he's calling you a bitch and he's still on the inside, when you get out, you're going to be more than a bitch. So you need to nip that in the bud right now. And every time he call you one, you let him hear that dial tone.
I want to say something.
Yes, yes.
I think the system itself is wrong because it doesn't allow men to make that acclamation way before 90 days, 6 months. A person who's been in prison for years thinks totally different. It's abnormal. Okay? I'm letting you know. All the thinking in prison is abnormal. The way that the majority of the people live, and I'm talking about there's a small majority of the people who live differently, but they have and they go through their own trauma as well, just trying to stay neutral. The men have to recognize they have a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the thing. They have to know I'm not right. And that's not happening. They're not realizing I need help before I step out here in society. And that's part of the problem.
But Rodney, can you begin to heal in the environment that's causing the issue? See, that's the whole thing. You're inside a prison saying, well, I need therapy so when I get out. But then it doesn't matter if you sit in that therapist's office for 1 hour or a day, 5 days a week, and you get out of prison. How can that prepare you for being on the outside? Because you're going right back into the prison environment.
But the thing is, you may not be able to heal, but I guarantee you can start doing the work.
You have to heal from the things that happened to you that got you in prison. What's going to happen inside of prison is another thing on top of the things that happened to you before. That's the way.
Yeah. And but the thing is also, my thing is this: awareness. They gotta know. They need this conversation on the inside. They need the conversation.
Right.
I'm wishing and I'm looking, y'all. I'm trying to get this conversation on the inside.
That's exactly what needs to be happening.
I need to turn an inspirational speech into a motivational speech to something like this. I am really looking to do a workshop on the inside. They need this information now.
I said something one day when I used to sit in the crowd in the prison, the jails, the county, and people used to come from outside and talk. That was such an inspiration to me because it made me connect to the realness that's outside. I knew that they were doing other things, but they took time to come in. And that made me want to do the same thing when I got out. It was the things that inspired me while I was in there. Of course, being hit at the board numerous times, it changes. You know, your mind changes after 2 years of being hit. And then when you're great, they snatch the rug from under you, and now you have to reacclimate yourself. And you got 2 more years of, or depending on what it is in the different states. And some prisons are worse than others.
Yeah. My thing is this, and this is my prayer for 2024. Lord, open the doors. Just open the doors and let us go in and have this conversation, because I do believe that there's some good people on the inside. There are some good people on the inside in the system. And one of the worst things I've ever heard a wife say about her husband, she said, he's a vile and barbaric animal that the system unleashed from the chains that had him bound. And I do believe with all my heart, if we would just get in and have a conversation with him, right? And I know a lot of them on the inside, they don't want to go to medics there. They don't want to go to see the professional, the mental health professional there, because they're just going to be handed a pill.
Right.
They're just going to give them something to, to
Right.
keep them quiet or whatever. So I'm asking you guys that's on this live and hear this, pray with me, but believe with me that God will open these doors and we can get inside. And we can start having these conversations inside. They have a right to know. Because I do believe if some of them on the inside get this information, they're going to start looking at themselves. And they're going to say, okay, what do I need to change? Because I don't want to come out like this. I'm coming for you, Rodney. I don't want to come out like this. One guy went in, spent 10 years, had never hit his wife. Never. Within 6 months of his release, she had a black eye. So we cannot depend on the system to help our loved ones, to rehabilitate. And we have to have these conversations with them. And so, guys, just pray and agree with me. God's going to open some doors, them bars. I'm going in. I'm going in. It's too many hurt people coming out. Women, wives, mothers. We're being hurt trying to help.
Understand that in prison is nothing but violence. You see that day after day after day. Just talking about it.
Yeah. And that's traumatic.
It is.
That's traumatic.
It is.
And Kat, for your question, do either of you ladies deal with your man? Yeah, they do. Yes.
Oh yes. Remember, I'm called the warden when you MIA for 12 hours. I would want you to check on me if I'm gone more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm controlling. No, it's called accountability.
Yeah.
It's called just consideration when you live with somebody. By the way, that's your wife. Hey.
So Rodney, let's do this, guys, because Rodney said just thinking about it made him feel some type of way. And so even when we're having these conversations, it can be traumatic. It can be emotional. It can really, because nobody wants to go to prison and come back out in the worse condition than they were. And then when they come into the household, it makes the whole family sick.
Yeah.
I would say to the families.
Can I say about just one thing?
Sure.
Because the family is an interdependent system, and the breakdown in one person's role impacts the entire system.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm 63 years old, and I still deal with the trauma of what happened to me in prison and my childhood. And it's a lot of times I talk to people and I say, I think that it is the wrong thing for men not to deal with their feelings.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And it's like it's being suppressed.
Prison, you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. In prison, you better not cry.
It's suppressed. It's like double mask, right? Yeah. I did a post about being double mask. You go in, you become something so that you can survive. You don't want to be shown vulnerable, and you wear that mask for years. The book Big Bad Wolf, ain't nobody gonna fool you forever. Yeah, you got to put on this mask to survive. And then when you come out that back gate, what you gonna say? You think you'll say, okay, I'm gonna take you off and I'm gonna leave you right here on the sidewalk? No, it's not. And then the thing about it, when they come out, okay, now they got to put on another mask for society.
So I think during the course of my relationship and my marriage, I'll talk about my marriage, was the most hurtful thing that was ever said to me. That to this day, and that's the thing, the gaslight. Oh, I don't remember saying that. Oh, I don't remember doing that. But he can remember me cheating on him, 34 years ago, but you can't remember something you said, last week. So the unaccountability. But the most hurtful thing was You met me on the street corner, which I did when he was 18 years old. I met him on the street corner. He said, you married me out of prison. He said, what kind of man did you think you were getting? And it was right then and there. I wanted to kill him. And I said, but what about you said this, you was going to love me. You was going to do this. And he said, oh, that was just prison talk. I said, what? That right there, we need a book, Sheila. Your next book, Prison Talk, okay? Because the ladies need to know it when they hear it.
Wait a
Prison
minute.
talk.
I'm gonna put this up here because I wanna. I understand the general point, I really do. But you all talking in terms like all men. Everyone has issues to work out, but not all men come out and I'll treat women. I was incarcerated for 28 years. Had one for marriage, 24. She died. Da, da, da. Okay. I just need to touch on this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Please.
I need to touch at that because when we come to the table, we're not ignorant to think that all men coming out of prison is gonna come out like this. Can't.
You made it clear up front. Maybe they missed it earlier.
And if I had to take the time to say, okay, he didn't, okay, she didn't, he did, I wouldn't be having this conversation. So please understand, this is my disclaimer. We ain't stupid to think that everybody that's coming out of prison is gonna come out of prison messed up like that.
Well, I'm not gonna bite that bullet.
Hold on. It's to the degree of their coping abilities. What one man can cope with, another man may not be able to cope with. And this is the thing. Let me say this. Why you brought that point up? Let me say this here. Because somebody said to me, are there any success stories? Yeah, there are. And it warms my heart to hear about the success stories coming out. But who's talking about the ones that's struggling?
Come
what
on,
are we supposed to do?
Preach.
What we're supposed to do? Not even acknowledge that?
Exactly.
What we're supposed to do?
Rodney,
Acknowledge that?
is there any prison in the United States of America that's anywhere resembles Disneyland? Any prison that you can think of, because you've been in men's prison, I have. Is there any one of them that would resemble Disneyland?
Not at all.
Okay, so I'm not gonna bite that bullet, and I ain't gonna eat that cake, and I'm not gonna drink from that fountain. Nobody is gonna come out of prison unscathed. Now, to what level and what degree of mental illness they have, and to what level of trauma they have, but everybody gonna come out with some trauma. Everybody gonna come out with some issues, and how they deal with it is different.
And let me tell you something else. Okay, go ahead, bro. Hold on, I'm gonna let you jump back in here, and then Rodney, come on. But let me tell you something else. This is what I've seen. You know, pride won't let a lot of them say, "Oh, I was affected." But like my brother Lester Young say, "Can you stand in the rain and not get wet?" Everybody come out that back gate gonna be affected some type of way.
Right.
Pride. I have seen them coming out, toting the Bible, quoting the scripture. 6 months later, they calling me, Miss Bruno, I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So don't come like, you know, you've been to prison and you come out and everything goes, because it ain't like that. You may hide it well. You may hide it well, but again, I ain't supposed to go there, but don't come. We're not here saying, because it's over 200 million people in prison. Do you think all 2 million people are gonna come out and they're gonna be okay? Come on now.
Can I say something? Can I say something, Sheila?
Yeah.
There was a book. There was a book called "The Rich Get Richer and the Poor Get Prison." It was written by a Harvard professor. He asked his students to come up with a system of prison that would make recidivism, obsolete. I think I'm saying that right. And what they did was they came up with the prison system that it exists today, where there's no privacy, there's no sense of humanity within the prison system. And I have to say, yes, men who come out of prison are damaged, but the degree of which they are, that's the issue. That's the issue, because We are damaged, but we can get better once we have the support of the people who know what it is to be institutionalized.
Yes. 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 Yeah. It just depends on the level of, like, I've seen guys get out not without struggle, but they started doing the work on the inside. I asked one guy, I said, what happened? He said, Miss Sheila, after 35 years this last time. I said, no, collectively. He said, no, 35 years this last time. He said, I
Yeah.
just looked at myself in the mirror and said, you ugly. He said, and I don't like who you are. He said, at that point, he said, I began to work on myself. Right? So there is a level of work, something that they can do while they're on the inside. Right? And
Right.
again, family members, we got to push this stuff on the inside to our loved ones. We can't wait till they come home.
See, we fell into this system at one point in time. Crime made us made us forget that they were family members. And we understand that people are going to have to, pay for their crimes. But it's become the point where, we forget that they're human. Those are human beings in that.
Yeah.
Just like there are women in prison who are human beings too, who are not being treated as such. There's some atrocities going on in there. And when they hit the gravel, that's not the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as women, it's obligatory for you to know that your man is going to get help when he gets out and in. Sons, daughters, husbands, whatever. It's all of us in that reform.
Right.
And
So
I thank you.
yeah, so let me ask you this. So I'm gonna ask this to Ro and Missy. Talk to the women out there whose loved ones are either still inside or they're out. What can you say to them? What would you say to them?
Proper preparation.
What does that look like?
And that means if you know your loved one is coming out, to start the preparation of the counseling and transition beforehand.
Yeah.
And we've gone through a lot of therapists, not because they weren't effective, but also when you're dealing with a mate, for example, if we're talking about family, who like a spouse or a mate, you want someone who can meet your mate where they are. And that includes, Ms. Bruno, if they have learning disabilities, you got to have a therapist that know how to present it to them so they can tangibly, put it in practice once they leave the therapy sessions. And when they're in prison, a lot of that stimulation that they get out here, you should be able to do a lot of groundwork before they transition, because the assessment process can be taken place. And one thing I know about guys, when they locked up, anything to get on the phone or come out for a call, they're going to be all in for that. So you might get a lot of hard truth. And someone who's an expert can see through that. So definitely preparing, and also doing what I've done, and not to get on my soapbox, what I've done the past year is I'm following everything Ms. Bruno does. I'm Googling, I'm looking at research, I'm looking at the differences in the DSM-4 diagnosing, because PICS, post-traumatic prison disorder, post-incarceration, whatever you want to call it, it is real. Yeah. It is real. And it is so important to get someone who knows how to deal with people in carceral settings. Mm-hmm. But being a totality of the things, don't be embarrassed about someone having a learning disability, the impact of isolation and being segregated. They say that a person under 21 years of age, 3 days in isolation or solitary confinement can do long-term damaging effects. When I talked to my husband, who had been in prison for 26 years at the age of 18, hey, they call it the hole in Michigan. How long you been thrown in the hole? And he was like, well, this year is about 2 years. And then 97, 98, that was about 1.5. By the time he got finished calculating, my husband had been in solitary confinement for 7 years.
Wow.
So if you're talking about the impact of just 3 days under 21, 7, and just in the spirit of transparency, because the thing about being with somebody in prison, especially wrongly convicted, you get relentless judgment. My husband, between the ages of 11 and 13, when we met, I was suicidal. He was the only person speaking life into me. So when I learned of his wrongful conviction, it just felt like, God, I'm supposed to be covering him. Because how could the person that helped speak life take somebody else's life? It didn't make sense. So in my gut, I knew something was right. And then come to find out, I was right.
Yeah.
And then this is the last thing I'm going to say. There is an existence to your natural being as a human being that has a spiritual aspect. With God, all things are possible. So having that foundation, incorporating that, a lot of people find God while they behind walls, but that's why you got to get a counselor and a specialist to be assessing and analyzing before they get out.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of time. And one lady, her husband, he told her that he was in solitary confinement for 19 months. He said, and he came unraveled. He said, I came unraveled while I was in there. And so when he got out, he started using. And he just, when one drug wouldn't silence the noise, he went to something else. And he went to something else. And eventually he OD'd. They found him in his room. He had been in there for 6 days dead. So I get it. I get it, y'all. I get it. And but it's not about having such a level of empathy and compassion that you disregard how it affects you. No.
And so that's what I think my message to the ladies would be. You know how you fry fish? I think everybody on this call fried something at some point, and you put it in that grease, and at some point it's cooking, it's raw. Then at some point it's cooking, then it gets perfectly, it's golden brown. But the longer you leave it in that grease, it starts getting burned. Okay, so the longer a person is incarcerated, right, the more trauma and the more issues they're probably going to have. And I think what I was in denial about was, I always thought I loved this man 34 years of my life. I'm 50. Our love could do anything. Oh, I'm going to love him back to emotional health. I'm going to cook and clean and, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just going to love on him. And, your love can't heal them, because and that was the another issue, is what I thought was love and how I was loving him, he didn't want it. We talked about it, but then when it came down to, he didn't want it. We're going to kiss in the rain. I'm going to rub lotion on your back. He didn't want me to touch his back. You don't use nobody touching his back. You think about, and a brother said it on one of your lives, Sheila, about sex. And you think you're going to come home and you're going to do this and do that. And they don't even want sex because they so used to using their hand. The hand is the best friend. And then you feel defeated because you feel shunned, that you're not attractive, he don't want you, he don't want to kiss. They're not used to kissing, hopefully. So they don't want to tongue kiss and make love. They don't know nothing about none of that. And it's uncomfortable. So now we getting deep, right? So what I would tell the ladies is, and then my husband say, you always taking everything personal. Well, how am I supposed to take it? I didn't know. And I went, right, you cheating on me, you this and that. I'm in the second bedroom for 10 months. We just got married. You ain't once came in there and tried to, well, something's going on. Either you're funny or you I didn't understand. I labeled him, well, he must be gay. Somehow, I didn't understand that there was psychological things going on that didn't necessarily make him gay, but he wasn't comfortable with certain things. Sex was an
Yeah.
act between him, himself, and and that's it. So
Yeah.
to have me in the room was uncomfortable for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And see that. Go ahead. Go ahead, Missy.
Going to the grocery store, looking at a menu. We'd be sitting in a restaurant. He'd be uncomfortable looking at a menu. There were too many choices.
Yeah.
He'd get lost walking in Walmart, couldn't find the front door.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So,
It's,
how do you prepare for something like that? You know,
you don't, and you get, and just like we are caught off guard, they are also caught off guard. They are
right.
so caught off guard. One thing that one of my guests said, Andrew said that he says that the way that we love them makes them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we're loving you, bro. Like you said, you concerned about, hey babe, you've been gone a minute and I'm just checking on you, whatever. And then checking on him makes him feel uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So it's just we're gonna have to work at this. We're gonna have to continue to communicate and hold and pray that the blinders be taken off of their eyes so that they can see that we're here to help you. We're here to help you undo what a system has done to
Mhm.
you, right? Because I do believe that a lot of them, Rodney, and please correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of them know that they have been affected, but whether it's ego, whether it's pride or whatever, they don't want to admit it, right? And so we just gonna have to continue to pray and like and ask God to soften their hearts, take the blinders off of their eyes so that they can see that we're here to help them. Family members are
Yeah.
here to help them. So Rodney, so again, people that's coming home from prison, why do you think that many of them are not open to seek some type of help? Is it because they don't think they was affected? I know you can't speak for everybody, but
Everybody. No. But there are a segment of people who are afraid to come forward simply because of the fact that there are some things that they can't or feel like they can't get rid of.
yeah,
And that is a major, major problem. Like I said, I
yeah,
had to get rid of the childhood stuff and then still deal with the things that were coming at me every day.
yeah.
It's a battle.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things is like when Kevin first went, and he knew right out the bat. He said, "She can't help me. She cannot help me," and he knew it. And he saw her again, and then he went to see somebody else who was heavy trauma. She was heavy trauma, and she was able to help him. And again, this is per individual experience. Kevin said to me, Sheila, with the level and the amount of trauma that I have had, he said therapy for me would have to be a lifestyle. And my thing is this too, family members, it's not our place to say that was then, this is now, get over it, because we don't know the magnitude of the trauma and we don't know the magnitude of the impact. That's why for Kevin, I was like, okay, you go on over there and be happy, whatever, and I'm still gonna love you, and I'm gonna stay over here. I'm going to stay over here. So we have to take that into consideration. Some people have went through some stuff, to include you. I had one lady, when I first started talking about this, she said, "Ma'am, thank you for bringing this up." She said, "Because I got my own level of trauma right now, and I know I can't deal." She said, "So I'm gonna bow out of this gracefully." She said, "Because I know I can't deal with anything like this."
And you know what? Just in the spirit of transparency too, it was being married to my husband that gave me the courage to finish a book that I have been trying to write for 3 years from my childhood trauma, and it's called "When the Devil Is Your Mama."
Wow.
And
Ooh.
I could not understand for the life of me when the thick of my marriage, a year in, I said, why do I feel like I'm at home with my mom? And it was a familiar spirit.
You got it, Joe. You got it. You can hold it up. You got
the
your
book?
book?
Yeah, I can go grab it.
Yeah. And then drop a link. Drop a link in there. And I'm gonna tell you something else, guys. A lot of time we don't understand, but and people laugh at me and talk about me. I don't want to go out or whatever because I got my head stuck in a book or whatever. Let me tell you something. A lot of us don't want to take the time to educate ourselves. You know, a lot of us don't even want to read a book. And I'm not plugging and say read my book or whatever, but it was Missy who read the book and saw what she was going through. Ro read the book and saw what she was going through. It will give you some insight.
I'll plug it for you. Read the book.
It will
Read
give you
the book.
insight.
Wife After Prison.
Send it to your loved one. And I'm telling you, it just, you know, the guys that wrote me from the inside just said, keep talking about this, you know, keep talking about this. And one of the ones that the guy said, had I had this information, maybe my wife would still be alive. You know, when a conversation from civil to homicide, when I jumped off the couch and I murdered my wife. So we don't know, and this I'm trying to tell y'all guys something. We, like I said, we will not know everything that they did, that they saw on the inside. We ain't gonna know everything. So you don't know what he did. You don't know what was done to him. And you don't know how that's going to affect him when he get out. Like the lady that said, had I known this, maybe my husband would still be alive, because 3 days out, he committed suicide. And everybody was talking about, well, what happened in 3 days? Now, baby, back up. Back up. Might have been what happened pre-incarceration, what happened to him in prison that he could not live with. What happened? Like just got this week. Man committed suicide. Let me tell y'all this, and we getting ready to get off here. Somebody had the audacity to say to me, be careful how you use the word post-incarceration syndrome. Look, I ain't gonna even go into the details on it, but I'm just gonna put that right there. So if y'all see me on a mountaintop hollering post-incarceration syndrome, y'all know why. You can't make me be quiet. You can't shut me up. I've lived it. Missy has lived it. Ro lived it. Still living it. Rodney living it. This Saturday, I'm going to be on there with two guys out of New York. One did 27 and a half years and one did 22. We're going to talk about it Saturday. Yeah.
It's such a long road.
Yes.
Back to yourself.
Yeah.
And when I left my husband and I, moved back to Texas, I mean, you talk about somebody that laying in the bed with the lights off, with the cover over her head, shaking, crying. I was traumatized and I was defeated. And I felt like a failure. My marriage, and I felt, I left him again, even though, and nobody, I think the biggest thing is trying to convince other people what I went through, the friends, the family, and they just, well, why'd you stay? If it was that bad, why'd you stay? And that's the biggest insult. Well, I stayed because I loved him. I stayed because we're married. I stayed because, and then they make you feel bad about staying. Well, why'd you stay? Well, I'm bad if I walk away too soon, and I'm bad if I stay. And you just no one believes that it was that bad. You wouldn't have been there that long. And I'm trying to tell you, ladies, listen, I'm talking to the ladies that's watching this show. You don't have to convince anybody of what you went through. Okay. And I ain't saying everybody get up and leave their man. That's not my message. What I'm saying is this. When I went to therapy, he said, you need to set boundaries. And I said, what's a boundary? It's when somebody does something, then this, and you stick to then that. I said, well, if he does X, Y, Z, if I say, okay, don't curse at me, and he curses at me, then what am I supposed to do? Because that's my boundary. He said, you leave. Oh, I don't want to do that. I just want him to stop. He says, no. Somebody crosses your boundary and they don't respect your boundary, that's it. You leave. Because our stories will be real short about the trauma and the abuse and the verbal abuse if we held to those boundaries. But we don't. We make excuses. It'll get better. I'll try harder. I'll be quiet. I'll love him more. And all you do is you're starting to get that long story of verbal, mental, emotional abuse. When what you should have did was leave, because they're not in counseling, they're not in therapy. What we do is we put ourselves in counseling. We put ourselves in therapy and think the relationship gonna get better because we went. Not so. So, you can take this message to the bank that if everybody ain't getting counseling and therapy, and some people need medication, might be you, might be him, might be both of y'all, okay? If you're not doing the work, and like Sheila said, the work can't stop at a year, 2 years. It might be a lifelong journey because of brain damage.
Yeah.
And that's irreversible. So if they're not willing to do the lifelong work, you can't have a lifelong relationship or a lifelong marriage. All you setting yourself up for is a lifelong misery. And you can sit and stay in that if you want to, but you got one life. And how are you going to spend your time? Because a lot of these men, they come out and they don't understand the value of time. Everything with my husband's, be patient. Be patient. We'll do that later. We'll do that. And I'm calling him, and he's at concerts with other women, but don't want to go to a concert with me. He's on vacation with other women, but don't want to go on vacation with me. And I'm sitting at home being patient.
Nah, that's something else. So Rodney, we got six minutes left. Talk to us. How can we help?
I think the best thing to do when you do have a man that's incarcerated, whether he be exonerated or whether or not he's just been paroled, is to first see whether or not he understands that there's issues, whether or not, you got to be able to imagine, you know what I'm saying? And now you're equipped with the information to know the things that are going on behind the walls. Okay. And it just may be the visuals. It just may be seeing people get beaten, knowing people that hang up, knowing individuals who are getting killed by its staff these are the things that go on in there. And I think that the trauma that they go in there with before, and then the trauma that they acquire while in there, it has to be dealt with. Yeah. It has to be.
Yeah.
Because it's worse. I think prison is worse than being in war because there's so much other things that you have to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah. But work with them.
So work with them till you get your best with your head.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They got to be healthy.
You know what? And
they
the thing about
healthy.
it is, maybe like Kevin and I separated 3 times. 3 times. And Misty talked about this. And this 3rd time, he crossed the boundary. And I couldn't just talk about it. I had to be about it. You crossed this boundary. So I have to impose some consequences for your action. Because if I don't, you might try it again. And I'm not saying everybody I'm just telling you what worked for me. And even if it worked for him, because he said, Sheila, I never thought that, let me put you on mute for a minute. Yeah, he said, Sheila, I never thought that I would see the back of a police car again.
Yeah.
He said, when I walked out that gate, he said, I never thought that I would. But that was the consequences for crossing the boundary. Loved him dearly. Love him dearly. And when I saw them bring him out in handcuffs, my knees buckled. Yeah. Right? But I had to let him know we can't do that one.
And I just want to say too, somebody mentioned something like, or about, I was looking at some of the comments as you ladies were talking. I heard it say, well, like, you need to leave, you need to this. When you're married to somebody, it's not like a boyfriend. If it was that simple, a lot of people would do it, but you did have a vow and a commitment that you made to God too. So it's not like you're staying and subjecting yourself voluntarily to abuse. When you marry somebody for better or worse, I'm not saying worse got to be somebody going upside your head and abusing you. I'm just saying for people to say you should leave, you should leave, you should leave. It's not that easy when you're married. But that doesn't mean stay if it's so bad that you are at risk, your health, your safety. Yeah. But I just want to make that clear how some people say just leave, leave, leave. That's not always the answer, easy answer. Let me say that.
Right. Yeah. And because it wasn't easy. It was not easy for me. Again, Kevin and I tried to figure this thing out. We was coming up with different scenarios. Maybe because we ain't dated, maybe because we didn't court or whatever, I would shut down and he would come over and pick me up and ring the doorbell and all that. We going through all of this because we're trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. What has happened to my amazing husband, right? So no, it's not easy to just walk away and leave. But I will say this, if an individual, you got to get to some point where you're going to say, I'm going to go seek some type of assistance because I see the way it's affecting my family. I see that it's tearing my wife down. I see that it's tearing my mother down. I see that. And my thing is this to my sisters and brothers who have been there and, you're not open to talking to somebody, or you have talked to somebody and you feel like, oh, they can't help me. Don't judge that based on one conversation with one therapist. And this is what I say. When you go to talk to a therapist, you interview them before anything jump off.
Right.
Before anything jump off. For any copay is paid, anything is, I need to know what you specialized in. I need to know how long you've been practicing. Can you tell me about have you ever dealt with anybody who have been incarcerated? How long have you, are you a trauma informed? Are you a trauma specialist? When you come from prison, you're not trying to go to no family therapist. This is your life.
That's right.
So we ain't going in there playing. We ain't going playing counseling.
Right, because sometimes counseling could do more harm than good if it's the wrong counselor. And, after COVID, post-COVID, everybody wanted to be a counselor. Everybody went in, took the course, the one course or two course, and became a counselor. So you got to be careful who you consult with. And then the other thing I would say in regards to Roe, what she said about marriage is this. All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate because I married somebody, did 29 years in prison, 8 days out. And I'll say this. He kept saying after we were married, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Well, think about being thrown in a pool. You're already in the pool. Now you saying I'm not ready to be in. I'm not ready to swim. Well, you're already in the pool. What you going to do? So you stay. But what I should have done was gotten out of the marriage because that's what happened anyway. So while we're in the world and we have an idea of what a husband should be and what a wife should be and what marriage should look like, they are coming out of a very special situation because even Rodney said prison is a society of its own. They don't know anything about relationships. They don't even know how to order from a menu. Now we ask them to be a husband. They don't have no idea what that's. They trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah,
My husband went in as a child. Now he comes out as somebody's husband. Come
yeah,
on now.
yeah.
Impossible.
And
Impossible.
that's what Kevin said. And I
Yeah.
shared this on the last live. He called me. We've been in divorce a year, so he called me, got a minute to talk. Yeah. He said, I want to apologize to you. He said, I didn't cover you. I did not protect you. He said, I didn't know what it was like to be a husband.
Can he talk
He
to
didn't
my
know how.
husband?
He didn't know
Let
how.
me tell y'all something. Let me tell you something. This is why I got mad love for this brother today. Because he never said, don't put my business in the street. He was one of the first ones to stand up in the penitentiary and tell them, hey man, when y'all get out of here, go get you some help. They laugh. They say that was just Bruno. Some of them are back inside. Some of them are divorced. But Bruno is true to this here. He true to this thing, right? So that's why I still can love him today.
Mhm.
I still can love him today, right? So Sandra says, what about us, exoneree spouses and support partners? What do you mean, what about us? And this is the last question, and we're going to get off. Sandra, I don't understand. What about us? Any you guys get that?
That's her. That's the co-founder of our nonprofit.
Okay.
That's her plug for us. I'll put the website.
Okay.
In.
Okay. Oh, that's the name of it. Okay,
Yep.
you got a link?
Yeah, I'll put it in there now.
Okay, you did. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, very good, very good. So, guys, it's that time. It's that time to log off. This has been good. I just want to say thank you to Rodney. Rodney, I saw at some point that you would get emotional, and so I hope that we didn't say anything that triggered anything, right? And I just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing, because without you guys giving us the information and giving us the knowledge, we don't know. We don't know. Right. And so I really, really appreciate you. I hope you will come back to the table again.
Absolutely.
And further educate us and allow us to educate you as well. To my
Thank you
sister
very much.
Ro, to my sister Missy, thank you guys so much. Thank you
Thank
so,
you.
so, so, so much. This has been my dream. I said this year, 2024, wife after prison gonna have to do something different. And I just didn't want it to be system impacted citizens at the table. I wanted some family members to come to the table. And when I asked you guys, you did not hesitate to come forth. I love you for your transparency. I love you for what you do. Thank you so much. And I'm going to be calling on y'all again. I'm going to be calling y'all on you guys again. If it's any family members or if it's any system impacted citizens on this live and you want to come on and share your story, your experience, by all means, hit me up and I'll schedule you in, because this is what it's going to take. It's going to take us collectively talking about this so that people can we can get the notice that we need, the recognition that we need, so that one day that it will be a diagnosable a disorder. Because right now what they're worried about, okay, if it's post-incarceration syndrome, it ain't in the DSM-5, how I'm gonna get paid.
And can I say something, Sheila? This is why I'm going to send you that memo where they refer to it as post-traumatic prison disorder, because not everybody can relate to prison, but they can relate to trauma. So they throw trauma in there. It's a play on words when it comes to funding. I'm learning.
Yeah. And I can see that. And this is why a lot of the reentry programs, they do not, when it comes to funding, and they apply for the grants, they have to be really, really specific, right? So if they want some big money grants and their big money grants don't include mental health in it, guess who they gonna roll with? They go with the big money. They're not going to go with the smaller grants that have mental health. So this is why a lot of the reentry programs don't have a mental health program. If truth be told, truth be told, it's profit over people.
It is.
Exactly.
It's profit over people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, again, thank you so much. I love you guys, and we're gonna keep talking about this even louder,
All
more
right.
so louder,
Yeah.
right?
No, we
Mhm.
love you and appreciate you for all you do, and thank you for educating the masses.
Yeah, yeah,
Cannot thank you enough. Thank you. And thank you, Rodney and Ron. Thank you guys
that,
for having us
Thank
on.
you.
Cheers.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
Thank you for
all
inviting me.
right. Okay, are you coming back?
Okay. Okay.
All right, guys. So if you guys can join us Saturday, I'm going to have two guys out of New York, 27 and a half years and 22. And this particular live is going to be every other Tuesday, twice a month. Okay. So I love you, ladies, and we're going to say good night.
Love
Good
you
night.
too.
All
Take
right.
care.
All right. You too. Bye bye. Okay, somebody. Let me end this and I go.